All right. So the topic of my discussion is civilization, singular or plural. The point I want to make is that the diversity of human civilizations was coped with within many different paradigms. I mean, from antiquity till today. So, in view of this, we can discern, in my opinion, four major paradigms how people in one civilization used to mentally negotiate the existence of other human communities with different kinds of civilizations and culture. The first one is the first paradigm is well, of course, is the most ancient one, and this is in the what I would call the introvert era of intercivilizational context, but usually a civilization, a human culture within a geographic area used to conceptualize the cosmos, the ordered cosmos, as in the terms of centrality and periphery, when one's own community, one's own culture and civilization becomes the pinnacle of order, and this order comes as a measure of the distance from the center. And usually this is conceptualized in binary phrases, such as we have in the Greek culture, of course, Hellen and barbarian. In Chinese culture, Huai, also Chinese and, okay, barbarian. In ancient Iranian culture, Iran, un-Iran, Iran and non-Iran. And in Indian culture, Bharata and Malaysia. Though in the last two distinctions, the cases, perhaps we have a tint of religious influence, since Iran, the difference between Iran and un-Iran is actually the difference between Zoroastrian community, Zoroastrian humanity, which has made its choice in the metaphysical battle between Ahura Mazda and Ahriman, and Angra Mainyu, and Gaiomardian humanity, the ordinary humanity, which is still ambivalent. And in the second case, the Indian case, is, well, it is the difference between dharmic and adharmic humanity. Usually to this kind of counterdistinctions and the notion of one's own centrality, ideas of geographic determinism were connected. An early case of that we have in Greek culture. We have in the treatise on airs, waters, and places from the Hippocratic corpus, where the order, the centrality of Greek civilization was explained by being in the geographical taking the geographical middle ground between the cold northern Europe, which according to this work, the inhabitants are manly and courageous, but they lack intelligence, while the Easterners, like in the Levant, the Egyptians, Phoenicians, Syrians, they are intelligent, but they lack courage and manliness. And the Greeks, on the virtue of being in the center between north and south, have both courage, Andrea, and they are also intelligent. They are cultured. So that's what makes them perfect. A similar example we have in the work Huainanzi from the Han Dynasty in China, where the superiority of Chinese culture is also explained, as you can read, in terms of being in geographical, being in the geographical center of the imagined world. And of course, you already know that in Chinese, China is Zhongguo, the middle realm, the country, the realm, the civilization, which is at the center. This is, of course, not an ethnic. This is not an ethnic designation, because even foreign, dynasties of foreign origins, like the Mongol Yuan dynasty or the latest Qing Manchu dynasty, by holding the center, they become part of the notion of Zhongguo, the middle realm. However, when more contacts are established between civilizations, I mean, this paradigm is insufficient. So another paradigm we can discern, okay, this is the discourse of, geographical discourse of classical Chinese, like Huaxia, the Chinese culture, the Chinese ethnicity being in the center, and is surrounded by all sides by different kinds of barbarians. And this is, of course, the Iranian, as per the great Iranian epical poem, it's enormous, Shahnameh of Ferdowsi, where Iran, represented by the youngest son of Feridun, the legendary ruler of the world after the tyranny of Zhidas, okay, is by the virtue of holding the center between his brothers Salm, which is equated with Rum, the west, the Greco-Roman part of the world, and Tur, the nomadic world, Turan. So, by the virtue of this, and he is representative of Iran. So, the second paradigm we are going to talk about is the mirror paradigm, when a distant civilization is conceptualized as being a mirror image of one's own civilization. A very curious example of this paradigm we find in the Chinese historiographical work, the Book of Later Han, Hou Han Shu, where it is described the expedition of Kan Ying. Kan Ying was a Chinese envoy during the Han Dynasty who was sent to Central Asia, and he came all the way to the Persian Gulf when he got information. He collected information about the Roman Empire for the first time in Chinese history, and it is very interesting how he conceptualized the Roman Empire like an exact image of China. Even the name he gave to the Roman Empire, Ta Qin, the Great Qin, is of course from the first Chinese centralized dynasty, the Qin dynasty of Qin Shi Huang, of course. You have seen, of course, in Xi'an the Pima Yong, the clay army, the terracotta army of this emperor. Okay, and of course he projects the Chinese self-perception to Rome. I mean, even in moral terms, like the people of the Roman Empire are tall and honest, and they resemble thus the people of the Middle Kingdom, China, Zhongguo, and they are so called. Therefore, they are called Ta Qin, the Great Qin, according to the first China centralized dynasty. However, in the 20th century, perhaps we have a resurrection of this kind of mirroring paradigm, but in a more, in a more dialectical way, in the cyclical theories of history, some of which representatives are, of course, Oswald Spengler, Peter Sorokin, and of course, Toynbee. So, in the sense, for them, the civilizations, we can discern the difference and mirroring of civilizations in their works. Perhaps we can use this paradigm to describe the paradigm of the human person. For example, all of us share the same human nature, and the same human condition, and also the same life cycle. So we are mirroring each other in the human condition and the life cycle from birth to death. But we are different in the physiognomy, being different persons. So we are not going. We don't have time to go into detail. In these cyclical theories of multi-civilizational system, we can see how this mirroring image, through the notion of the cycle, actually precludes the notions of superiority and inferiority of civilizations, different civilizations. Because if each civilization is on a certain point in a cycle, so it is absurd to say that this civilization is in a way superior to the other, because you never know that the other civilization maybe is in the upward part of the cycle. And when you come to the pinnacle usually of the development. Of course, they would be the decadent, the degrading cycle of the civilization. So talking about some civilization being by itself inferior or superior to others becomes absurd. Okay? The third paradigm, the civilization of the other as a paragon for oneself. This is the case when other civilization is seen as an example, is most usually framed in moral terms that should be followed and should serve, and the image of the other civilization should serve as a corrective of the present state of one's own civilization. An excellent example of this paradigm we have in the beginning of the modern era in Europe, when during the 16th and 17th century, the intellectual chinoiserie, the infatuation with China based on the information sent to Europe from China usually by the Jesuits missionary, Matteo Ricci and others, of course, had such an impact in European intellectual culture circles. It is very interesting, both ecclesiastical, religious church cycles, and the secular, the French philosophers, the Enlightenment philosophers, who couldn't agree with the Jesuits on anything but on China. So, for example, for Voltaire, as we have here the example that China is an ideal paragon of civilization as being more or less secular civilization, which still and then obtains morality, which is a centralized, peaceful state, unlike the state of perpetual war in Europe, which was, of course, the 16th and the 17th century. I mean, we are not going to talk about the wars of religion and everything in France and the 30 years in Germany. So it is very obvious why they wanted to see in China the image of what Europe could be and what Europe should be. Peaceful, secular, with no feudal feuding and interreligious violence. However, this paradigm, it wasn't present only in Europe in the early modern era, but also in China during the early dispersal of Buddhism, when the early Buddhist pilgrims who went to India, they tried to portray India as the center of their world, but their world was now a religious one. So it is very interesting how they took the centrality, the traditional centrality of China being a Chungguo, actually to the land of the Buddha, which now becomes also, it is very interesting, in the writings of Buddhist travelers, Chinese Buddhist travelers to India, like Faxian, Yijing, and others, actually, India, the middle end of India, actually, the Gangetic Plain, which is now Chungguo, the middle realm, but also this is a wordplay because from the Sanskrit term Madhya Desha, the middle land. So they, like if you have here in the example of the writings of the Faxian, who in the 4th century went into India. So the Gangetic area of India now is the perfect land in every conceivable manner, even in climatic manner. I mean, so it is very interesting to see his description of Indian society at that time. We don't know whether it is true. The criminals the king governs without decapitation or corporal punishment. Criminals are simply fined lightly or heavily, even in cases of repeated attempts of wicked rebellion. They only have their right hands cut off. Throughout the whole country, the people do not kill any living creature, nor drink intoxicating liquid, nor eat onion cigar. So the land of the Buddha, the physical land of the Buddha, actually is presented as a kind of super mundane utopia. However, I want to notice something. this kind of description of India and, in a say, disappointed with one's own country, we find only in the Chinese travelers to India during the so-called era of northern and southern dynasties, is between 3rd and the 6th century AD, which was one, in political terms, it was one of the nadirs of Chinese history, since China was divided. But we don't find this kind of the disparagement of China, one's own country, in the travelers, the Chinese Buddhist travelers to India from the Tang dynasty, of course, because Tang dynasty was like Xuanzang and other, because Tang dynasty actually was one of the pinnacles of the Chinese civilizational development. So it's obvious that this kind of idealizations of other civilizations actually are function of the state, the present state of one's own country, one's own civilization. When like, for example, we had also in the case of early modern Europe, in the time of interreligious wars, which demographically was the worst worst wars Western Europe has experienced, much worse than the First and Second World War, vis-a-vis the proportion of the population that got killed. Okay. So how many? Okay. And the fourth paradigm, the last paradigm, is the civilization in singular. Actually, the very word of civilization was invented by, of course, by Mirabeau in his book from 1756, the friend of man, or the treatise on population. And actually, the civilization, as it was used in Mirabeau, was singular, but not in particular way, in the sense like represented simply a level of human development when a human community acquires urban culture, cities, and literacy. But however, after the 17th century and from the second half of the 18th century, the word civilization in Western Europe became to be used only for Western European, particular Western European civilization. So civilizations equals Western Europe equal West. So how do we frame all the others? They were framed within a three-parted division as civilization equals West. Barbarity equals those non-Western culture who have some kind of a state organization, like, of course, China, India, Middle East, and of course, and finally, savagery. All the others, Africa, the Americas, Australia. And as John M. Hobson, in his work, The Eurocentric Conception of World Politics, from 2012, explains that this notion actually was, during the 19th century, was racialized and colorized, quite literally. So civilization equals white color, white, of course, barbarity, yellow, and savagery, black. And probably you have noticed this kind of three-party civilization is consciously or subconsciously repeated in the Cold War era division of the world. The first, the second, and the third world. And the extreme case of civilization in the singular, of course, is the notion of American exceptionalism, where America, the phenomenon of the United States, even is not now seen in terms of superior and inferior, but actually as an exception, as incommensurable uniqueness. So when the United States say we are number one, it is a very strange number one that precludes the existence of number two or number three. So, if we go deeper into the roots of this notion, according to me, not according to me, of course, it's most obvious that this is based actually on the Calvinist notion of election, the theological notion of election based upon double predestination, which of course betrays the Puritan roots of the American polity. Of course, the Calvinists from England, when after the restoration of the Stuart monarchy, found their conditions in England not very pleasurable for life, immigrated to the North American colonies, and they became the kernel for the later American polity. So, the Calvinist roots, of course, predestination, the election based upon double predestination, and the secular branching we are experiencing now, of course, it's the notion, the dogma of American exceptionalism. And I will finish with the psychological, the psychological observation, how this notion, I mean, how this originally Calvin notion reflects in the usual behavior of American, perhaps to some degree other, particularly Anglo-Saxon, but also other Western public figures within the what I call the triple S syndrome: smug, self-righteous, and sanctimonious. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Clemens Huchel. I'm from Germany, and I'm working for a peace NGO. It's called Peace Institute Potsdam, and I think it's the only really independent peace NGO we have in Germany. And when I heard the name Cooperative Multipolar System and in quest for a new world order, I thought, yes, exactly, that's what we need. When I look out of the window, I see a rising destruction of nature and ecosystems, and I see violence and war. And just in the days now, we have a lot of violence and war. So what we need is a change or transformation, and we need this change in many systems, in the social system and in the economic system, and especially in the power system. And that's what I want to talk about today, about the power system, and especially about the possibility for impact of the civil society. The laser pointer function? Okay. This is a visualization of the power system. I don't talk about everything, but what we see is a cycle. And we have a concentration of power in this system, and this is the problem. Always when we have concentration of power, this can foster or provoke the law of the strongest. And this is always connected with domination, with power over people and not with power with people. And there's a high potential for violence. And to have clarity about this system, about this power system, this helps us to identify leverage points for the possibility for change and transformation. So when we look at the larger scale of this element, of these elements, we have four big elements the cycle. And the first one, or the most important one, this is, or let's start first with the two major elements. The two major elements which everyone knows is the civil society, which is the sovereign at the bottom, and the other one is the governments and the politics. This is on the top. And less obvious are two other elements, and this is the power in the background. These are the elites on the left side, this cloud, and the mainstream media. And the mainstream media is a very important part in this cycle. The normal function of mainstream media and the elites in a democratic system, normally there should not be this power which they have. The main power normally should have the sovereign in a democratic model, so the civil society. But in reality it's a little bit different. And what we have two typical procedures in this circle. One is the law of the strongest, which is mentioned on the top on the left side over the control. And this subject is a taboo subject, so normally it's not named. And in Germany, we have a wording, and always when we say, yes, they do so because they can, then this is an aspect of the law of the strongest. And the other typical procedure is what I call the trick of minimum participation. And we have a similar wording for that. It's like bread and circuses, which we know, or bread and plays. Yeah? So, and yesterday I heard someone saying, we can vote, but we cannot select. So in Germany, every 4 years we have an election, and we can go there and elect our favorite parties. But at the end, we never know if they do what they promised before. So this is only in theory, yeah, and where we think we have an impact. And then the most people that think everything is okay, I'm fine, I have a car, I have a big TV, I have a smartphone, I can go for vacation. There's a lot of or enough alcohol, yeah. So everything is fine. So and this thinking, everything is okay, everything is fine, is also, I think, a part of this minimum participation in welfare and wealth. And so on with this, the population is kept in a dozy state, like a sleeping-like mode. Yeah? And what is also happening is a totally overload with information, so that the people don't get aware of all these cycles and all these processes. So coming back to these 4 elements, the elites in the background, this is the main profiteer of this system. There's a well-established system of lobbyism, and so they influence and control the politics and the government. So this is nothing new, I think. But sometimes there arises problems. Sometimes there are arising new parties. So they need some time to get these parties under their control. And then sometimes the elites get a little bit panic. And this is the fact in Germany now, where there's a new party, which they say it's a right-wing party, no? But the elites are very afraid of that. And sometimes I think it's an example is also Donald Trump. No? I think the elites are afraid that they cannot control him, that he's so that he's doing what he wants. He has enough money, so they cannot force him or convince him with money. So sometimes I'm not sure, it's only an estimation. Sometimes I think this is the reason why they want to get rid of him. And the one effect of this lobbyism we can see in Germany on this topic of speed limits on highways. In Germany, it's not possible to get this speed limit because of the strong power of BMW, Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen. So and even if the population want the speed limit, they will not settle up this speed limit. And it's the same in the US with Guantanamo. Obama promised to shut down or dissolve Guantanamo, but he was not able for any reasons. And we have the problem with the highways, and in the US they have a problem with weapons, and the weapon lobby is so strong, I think they will never have significant changes in this law. And Obama, I think he tried, but these were very small, minor changes only. And then we have a crucial position of the mainstream media. They are directly controlled by the politics and the government. So mainly I'm talking about Germany, where I'm familiar with, but I think the difference to other countries is not so big. And sometimes the mainstream media are also directly controlled by the elites, because the elites normally own these mainstream media. So these influences, typically manipulation, and nowadays very, very common propaganda. And in Germany, when you're talking with the people, they say, yes, we also have propaganda. Of course we have, no? But they cannot see the propaganda. They only see propaganda on the Russian side. This is full of propaganda, no? But when they point out or show them our propaganda, they cannot understand. So propaganda is not seen in their own country. We only see that, or more likely we see that in other countries. Okay, and in the bottom, we have the sovereign, the civil society, the people. And this, in principle, is the major aspect. And there's a saying in the peace movement: imagine there's war and nobody goes. You know? If this come true, war would end immediately or even not started. And we have two other main aspects. This is labor and consumption. And labor is a resource for the elites. And with this resource, the civil society is supporting, mostly unconsciously, supporting the elites. And also with the consumption, because the elites or the economy needs customer. And this role is also at the civil society. So, and with this cycle is closed. So we have a cycle which is self-perpetuating, and it's like an endless loop. And the question is how to break this loop. And so where does the civil society have an influence? One point, what I said, is the labor. So when civil society refuse to work, not to gain higher wages, but to not longer support this dysfunctional system, there could be an effect. And the consumption, like, okay, then I will jump over to some other parts. One thing I want to point out is 50% of the population are women. And the feminine, nurturing, and life-giving nature has less influence in this system. So how can this imbalance be corrected, and how can the feminine aspects of come into their peace-promoting effect? What would the world look like then? Okay, so one point is what we can do is reducing the power of the mainstream media. This is not easy because there's the preservation in this system. So the system, the one who takes advantage is the lobbyism, the elites. They are the most profiteer of the system, so they have no interest to change anything. And then we have the problem with censorship. Nowadays, they call it prevention of disinformation. So the question is only who decides what is disinformation and what not. The digitalization and surveillance is a problem for the civil society because they can stop resistance at the outside. So it's also called sometimes shrinking spaces. And what we have, you have a division of society. The elites are aware of the threatening power of the civil society, so they try to polarize the civil society. And some of these issues are the war in Ukraine is polarizing. Then especially in Germany, we have right-wing or not right-wing. Then the pandemic issues and also the climate change issues. This is also that's like a tool to divide this civil society. So so my feeling is a little bit despair, because in this well-established system of power that sustains itself with a well-controlled civil society in the days, leaves little room for change in the direction of common good. So do we have any prototypes? How can we strengthening the effectiveness and rise up the awareness of the civil society? And I think all what we have done yet was not working. We can see outside, we have war, we have violence, we have destruction in the ecosystem. So what can we do? And if you have any ideas, I would like to go in the discussion with you and to start networking exchange about this system. How can we rise the awareness for the power of the civil society? Because I think from the politics, there will be no change because they are controlled by the elites and they don't want it. Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to start by thanking to the organizer of the conference for this opportunity. My name is Otilia Sofron, and for the more than 20 years, I've been working in the peace education field in Romania as a volunteer. And I'm excited to share with you my experience. Peace education is an important point in the education of the new generation and also for the older generation. The youngsters are having no experience. They need to get peace education information. The older generation already know what peace means, but sometimes they need to renew their knowledge and to add some new to their background. I will speak at first about the Romanian education system. In the curriculum, peace education in Romanian schools cannot be found as an individual subject, but it's included in several curriculum subjects. By example, starting with the 3rd grade, we have the civic education, also social education curriculum. Lessons are promoting the understanding and tolerance of different cultures, religions, ethnic groups, contributing to a peaceful coexistence in the society. Another part is history curriculum that starts in the 4th grade. is having lessons on historical events and including the consequences of the war and the importance to have a peace. Students can analyze the cause and effect of conflicts and learn about peace treaty and movements. In the 11th grade, we have a new curriculum subject. It's started from the last school year, Holocaust history. Another curriculum includes ethics and religion, are also included in the compulsory curriculum. They are starting from the 1st grade. I have to say that in Romania we have many religions, many ethnic groups, and for this religion curriculum, it's not compulsory for everybody. The parents can choose if the children will go or not to the class, and they are different for any religions we have. The curriculum starting from the 1st grade, these are including discussion and debate about morality, ethics, and religion, and they also include themes related to the peace, tolerance, also respect for the others. Students are encouraged to develop values such as empathy, respect, and tolerance, which are fundamental to peaceful relations. Another point is the language and literature curriculum. Through the study of literature, the students explore themes of peace, conflict, and human rights, fostering reflective and critical thinking. Also, arts and music class provide students with opportunity to express themes of peace and harmony through creative projects. The best way to teach students about peace can be the extracurricular activity, such as workshops and seminars that may be organized by schools as workshops on conflict resolution, communication skills, and non-violent behavior, focused on teaching students conflict resolution skills, such as active listening, negotiation, and mediation. The workshops are on diversity and tolerance, encourage students to appreciate and respect different cultures, religions, and perspectives. Seminars can cover the principle of nonviolent communication, helping students to learn how to express themselves assertively and respectfully. Several schools are celebrating the International Day of Peace on September 21, with activities such as Peace March, Assembly, or thematic lesson, or art exposition. Most of the schools are participating in the Erasmus Plus projects that are focused on themes like peace building, intercultural dialogue, and the prevention of radicalization. Cultural projects are also a very useful tool in peace education. Projects involve exploring and appreciating different cultures through their artistic and musical tradition, promoting cultural understanding. All of this activity can be organized in collaboration with NGOs. Non-governmental organizations often play a role in promoting peace education by providing research, training, and organizing events in schools. Teacher training is another point for improving the peace education that students can receive. Teachers can get trained on how to incorporate peace education principles into their teaching, but this is depending somehow on the local conditions. Teachers can receive training on how to mediate conflicts between students and how to create a classroom environment that encourages peaceful interactions. This includes strategy for managing classroom dynamics and fostering a culture of dialogue. Training programs often emphasize the use of creative and interactive teaching methods, such as role-playing, group discussion, and project-based learning, to engage students in peace education. Through partnership with NGOs, teachers can access on ongoing professional development opportunity that keep them updated to the best and latest methodology in the peace education. While some teachers have access to specialized training in peace education, this opportunity may not be available across all regions of Romania, particularly in rural areas. Some schools may lack the necessary resource or institutional support to implement peace education, even if teachers are well trained and willing to do so. NGOs often run awareness campaign in schools to promote peace, tolerance, and understanding. This campaign might have a connection with international days, such as International Day of Peace, and may include activity like peace march, debate, or art contest. NGOs that focus on peace building and human rights often provide training sessions for teachers. Some teachers' training programs are developed in collaboration with international organizations such as UNESCO or the Council of Europe, which provide resources and framework for peace education. Here are some examples of NGOs in Romania. I have chosen just random. It's not, I don't make publicity for nobody. One challenge for the NGOs is to ensure the sustainability of NGOs' initiative, as this may depend on external funding and are not be integrated on long term into the school system. Collaboration of NGOs significantly help peace education in Romanian schools by providing the specialized resource, professional training, and programs that might be not otherwise available. This partnership helped to create a more holistic and practical approach to the peace education, growing up a culture of peace and tolerance among students and educators and also into the society. Romania, as a member of the EU and the Council of Europe at the governmental and legislative level, Romania's educational policy supports the inclusion of human rights and peace education, aligning with broader European Union guidelines. Romania participates in international initiatives like UNESCO's Global Citizenship Education, which promote peace, tolerance, and understanding among students globally. Be responsible and be an active participant in the global society. While the legislation provides a strong foundation for peace education, there may be gaps in the implementation process, particularly thinking about the different regions and schools in Romania. Peace education in Romania is part of a larger effort to build a tolerant and peaceful society. We have several laws, but in my opinion, it's not enough what they are doing for peace education in Romania. As I said at the beginning, I was working as a volunteer, peace education in Romania, more than 20 years. I wish to show you what I was doing. So I was going around Romania. I visited 10 prefectures. The attendance was over 20,000 people. I don't know exact number. And on green, you can see where I was. Materials I was using from the beginning. 20 years ago, I was not having a computer. Schools were not having computers, so I was using poster collections, CD and movie from the Peace Museum in Hiroshima. My photos, I was taking them together with me at all conferences. All my pictures are having an explanation, very clear about the place and content and the story behind the picture. I'm doing my work according to the children, and at the end, all the time, we are making origami, the crane. I also published 2 books. The first one, Peace and Light in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, that was donated to all the schools, high schools in Romania. And the second one to all the prefecture libraries. I was publishing in the newspapers, in magazines. And for what I was doing, I have a list of questionnaires and impressions. And challenge. In Romania, we have a big gap between the city schools and the village schools. It's a big problem. And there is no standardization way to assess the impact of the peace education. Thank you for your attention.
I push. Hello, everybody. In Yugoslav times, we had self-governance. Supposedly, the workers could manage the firms on their own. So we do the same with the panels here. I can see there is no moderator or chair, so everybody takes the floor on their own. And I want to say I will not stand up. I don't feel like standing for 10 minutes. I will speak from my seat here. Anyways, the topic of my talk will be basically the 5 fields of struggle within the new Cold War or the Third World War. It will be an overview, of course. In 10 minutes, you cannot do much and then describe the 5 realms of struggle, which I would speak about in a few minutes. Now, the Russian invasion, the Russian aggression, the Russian, whatever you call it, the Russian attack on Ukraine, or if you want to prefer to call it the special military operation, was a clear signal that the world is in the era of a conflict between a power which strives to keep hegemony over the world in the United States and other aspiring powers, including Russia. Here, of course, you can mention China, India, but also others. What has been simmering for about 10 years now is out in the open. And what Professor Sakpa calls it the new Cold War, Emmanuel Todd from France calls it the beginning of the Third World War. The things are serious and dangerous for the whole planet, of course. But I said the whole conflict has been simmering and boiling up ever maybe since 2013, 2014. You had then the Russian aggression, the Russian intervention. Sorry, Russia doesn't. It's not always aggressive. The Russian intervention in Syria. You had, of course, the coup d'état in Maidan in Ukraine, and again the Russian intervention in Ukraine, and of course you had the initiation of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. So for about 10 years, the conflict has been going on, and now it's very visible that this is a conflict between what maybe I can use again what Professor Sakva said, the political West and the powerful Rest, let's call it. You have, of course, the dominance of USA on the one side and countries and powers which are not maybe so well coordinated, but are trying to be coordinated in the recent years since 2022. Now, let me go to the 5 realms of struggle. I have worked on this for 2 years now, and I'm pretty sure that these are the main points of the contention. But of course, if I'm not correct, or if you think otherwise, please correct me. I have labeled them with sort of sexy terms so that they're easy to remember, and they are the software, the hardware, the highways or the corridors, the cash, and the institutions. Now, I'll briefly speak. Again, we have been allocated 10 minutes, so not much we can say. I'll briefly speak about these five. Maybe we can talk later and discuss afterwards or in the Q&A session. Number one, the struggle concerning institutions. This is basically a realm of international institutions present and in the making, emerging. The UN is obviously the biggest one which we have to talk about. China, Russia, India, other countries have tried to reform the functioning of the UN with not much success. Within the UN, you have two big financial institutions, the World Bank and IMF, which also beg for modernization and reform. China has been trying here strong to reform them, but with not much success. Of course, USA has veto power in both, and of course in the UN in General Security Council. So it's difficult to see that these institutions can be reformed. In Europe, let's quickly jump to Europe. We have Council of Europe, of course, and we have the OSCE, which mainly deals with European security issues. In both of these, Russia has been under tremendous pressure, and from one it was kicked out from the Council of Europe. In the OSCE, in Skopje actually last year, it was almost decided that Russia will be kicked out. Fortunately, it was not. But the point is again that you have such a strong antagonism against one of these rest of the superpowers, Russia, in these two institutions, that it's difficult to see how this institution can get back to the original mission, which was, I'm talking about OSCE now, which was to communicate, cooperate, and coordinate regarding security issues. So what is being going on the side of the other strong powers, not the USA and the Western Europe, is the formation of alternative institutions and organizations, starting from this very popular now BRICS Plus to Shanghai Cooperation Organization to the Russian-led organization which focuses on Euro-Asia, and so on. It's a clear sign that if the big alternative powers cannot reform and cooperate with the US and the West, they will do it their own way. I have to go quickly to the other four of these five realms of struggle which I have noted. The second one, I called it highways, corridors. It's basically the utilization of resources and the connectivity among countries around the world. Of course, this was the basic initial idea of the BRI, of the Chinese initiative, but it's also something which Russia focuses strongly. We talked about the north-south transportation corridor yesterday. We talked about, we can also talk about the Chinese Central Asia, Western Asia corridor. We should talk about other corridors which connect countries and resources. The alternatives now are on the side of the USA, which promotes alternative corridors. Basically, it tried to promote alternative to BRI with not much success. A lot of money was promised, but nothing materialized. Then there was a Middle Eastern, India, Middle East, Israel corridor, which again is something which has not been materialized. And there has been different kind of attempts of the USA to link countries to persuade them not to be part of the corridors that are built by China or, in lesser instances, Russia. In this realm, the struggle is not only about connectivity, but also about resources. And resources, somebody mentioned yesterday, Afghanistan. Even if you have them, if you cannot build roads and railways to sell them and exchange them, it's not much of use for the country and for the rich resources it has. But the resources we are talking about here are the critical rare earth minerals, which are, of course, used in the power play between the political West and the Chinese, for example. rare earth minerals which are used for the production of electronic batteries and electronic components and chips. Now, the third realm of struggle, let's call it cash, although this is a very complicated area. It's an area where we talk about the predominance of the US dollar and the attempts to somehow balance this on the part of BRICS and the other countries. It is about the usage of the dollar in the international trade system. It's about the usage of the dollar in the so-called reserves of bank reserve, national sovereign wealth of the countries, and the alternatives, which are basically now very discussed in the open, and one of them being the digital currency of the BRICS, but also about digital connectivity of central banks and undertaking transactions that do not involve the dollar as a currency. In this realm of struggle, we also talk about policies connected with tariffs, taxes, and other weapons which currently are being used in trade wars. You have EU, which wants to stop the advantage of China in the electric vehicles, and I think maybe even today they are discussing whether to impose the proposed sanctions by the European Commission of maximum 45% for electronic vehicles made by Chinese companies. So in this realm, this is a complex struggle, which on the part of Russia, on the part of China, on the part of Brazil, and the other alternative powers to the US domination, there is an attempt to construct a financial system where they will have a say, and where the absolute dominance of the United States will be suppressed, let's put it this way. Now, the software and the hardware, the last two rounds where there is a struggle. The software is the area of the struggle for ideas and values, struggles and ideas on ideas and values around the world. On the one hand, you have this typical explanation that the USA and its Western allies stand for the rules-based world order, liberal rights, and so on, which is opposed by the more traditional thinking and traditional values of not only BRICS countries, but probably the majority of the world, which is more conservative on the issues such as LGBTQI plus ideas and values, and sorry for this, and it's also more traditional concerning family values, let's say. So this whole struggle you can observe live whenever there is a UN discussion and a resolution on the war in Ukraine, where you have a lot of countries which support, of course, the Ukrainian struggle and fight, mostly from the political West, and you have the others who are not so much interested in blaming Russia for its activities and its special military operation. The split here is also about the values in the international relations. We talked, or some of you spoke about the differences between the approach Russia and China have. China has different initiatives, of course, from the global cooperation initiative, global development, global security initiatives. Also, Russia has also many official documents. All of it in the essence is focused on the sovereignty of each and every country around the world. So each nation is sovereign, and on the part of Russia, it talks about indivisibility of security. These concepts are values which are completely different from the interventionist American-style rules rules-based world order where the United States reserves the right to intervene in affairs of countries and conflicts around the world when it thinks that human rights, for example, have been violated, like in the 1999 intervention in Kosovo. Now, the hardware, only the hardware, the last, of course, of these 5 rounds of struggle, this is hardware in terms of technological arms in the field of the military. So you have different levels of development, let's say, of super ballistic missiles, intercontinental missiles. It appears that here Russia is in the lead, to different kinds of cybersecurity and weapons which are non-traditionally conceived as a military. Not only this, but also here the big struggle is concerning artificial intelligence and superconductors and chips. What is important here, of course, is that the attempt of the United States to prevent Chinese development is clear and present and involves convincing, pressuring, whatever you say, strategic allies from the Netherlands and South Korea not to allow China to buy these specialized machines to make the chips or to actually outsource the chip production in other countries which were traditionally trade partners of China in this area. This forces China to basically develop its own sector of chips, which are the future of the warfare, because the small nano chips are the basis of the artificial intelligence. Thank you. I hope I didn't pass too much of your time.
There is some changes in the program. My name is Jovan Pejkovski. Please, could you? Okay. Faculty of Economy, or Faculty of Philosophy, Economist by education, and I will emphasize some aspects of the economic dimension of multipolarity. What are the main issues? We have existence of unipolar system gradually that now is being replaced by multipolar system, and there are still expectation what will prevail, unipolar or multipolar system, or there will be some other model that could be some mixture exchanging the interests of the people, or especially of the states that are still facing or imposing their policy and their interests. Creation of multipolar world is a process. It's going slowly, but it's starting to replace the unipolar, where one state is dominant. Sorry, I prepare a long article, long speech, because of the coffee is here. I will be shorter, only with emphasizing the main topics. Economic and territorial motives still dominate in construction of unipolar and multipolar system of relation between of the states, economy and territorial. Who will have more resources, bigger territory, how to impose influence through other form of pressure or through the war or other models. Formation of alliances and strategic partners in divided world order changes relations and naturally creates conditions for multipolar versus unipolarity in the arrangement of such relations. Traditional interests of the West are well known. They are still present with different form. Many of that interests are imperial, with colonization, exploitation of the resources, and taking part in the sovereignty and independent of many states. Driven by aspiration to abolish century-old exploitation, the new educated elites from the country, especially that are colonized, now are fighting for their independence, creating sovereign states, and they need to be partners, not to be under the colonization and imperial imposing of slavery, exploitation, etc. This partnership become real after the establishing new alliances. So we see how the colonial policies are not more acceptable, and Western elites do not recognize these changes. They are still want to keep their position in the world. There are still confrontation. Who will dominate? Who will be in the position to lead the world? But now we see that from United Kingdom imperial colonization, or before Spanish or Portugal colonization, until now, colonization are not acceptable, and confrontation start who will have free position. American domination is still very strong, and Western countries are within to conquer Russia as well other countries with great resources and energy potential. The confrontation of the United States of America with Russia as the largest country in the world in terms of territory and resources take place through Ukraine. And for this purpose, they activate all mechanism in the justification of unipolarity. So we still domination of United States, and in the same direction, the United States animates and forces other allied countries not to justify and to support American and Western conquer demands. The application of various alliances for the membership and performance of the Western states gets its price, which is well defined by Mr. Richard Sakwa. Again, we are quoted your idea, Mr. Sakwa. The price of the alliances with the West is ambition of to the double standards that are not accidental but are systematic for the political West. Systematic means that everything is included in this double standard. One rule applies to those in league with him, another applies to outsiders. The price of membership is submission to this double standard. Macedonia as a country has experience with the double standards, especially for his process in membership NATO, and now in the process of joining European Union. It means one standard are for other countries, especially for those that are smaller and weaker. They have double standard. I will not explain because this is another topic, but we are speaking about unipolarity and multipolarity and what are the interests of the country to impose such kind of policy. Europe must get right of the United States, which has its own doctrine of constant influence, change, and command of European politics, often against the interests of European countries and citizens. It is necessary to understand that the effort of the United States for the sustainability of the existing system in which they dominate and build policies and strategies that bring them position, profit, and privilege. That's why we have facing with many confrontation, wars, terroristic attacks, etc. But the USA will be the bigger loser after Europe from the loss of dominance and policies of unipolarity, which has ruled a large number of countries for centuries with genocide policies of violence and fear with ethnic cleansing. The United States and some of the Western countries are facing more opponents to this policy because of the relentless bombing of the Palestinian territories and the innocent victim cannot be justified by anyone, anywhere. Unfortunately, the countries of the world are divided about condemning or support such policies that could not be explained. Something about the media and polarization. The media now are put in the position to explain the policy of some government. And sometimes we are seeing that democratic freedom are abolished and become just a farce behind which hide the interests of the global companies and states that implementing policy of their interests. It creates an aversion to the West and its policies, especially for small and poor countries. Okay. Keeping Europe and American influence is only a model to impose the policy and interests of the United States against Russia, China, and other states, using the multipolarity system, and as well EU members and other candidate countries like Macedonia are forced to support such kind of policy. Not so long ago, Madeleine Albright, former US Secretary of State, asked the question, so why should Russia have everything and we do not have the same things? This only confirms the decade-long efforts of the United States to conquer as much space, territory, and resources as possible all over the world, and for they do not choose funds. US invests more than 20 years in military infrastructure in Ukraine in order to enable it to go to war with Russia, to cripple its growth and development and efforts for multipolarity and democracy. The changes are seen. BRICS is one of obviously changes since 2006, and now more than 40 countries want to join BRICS, and their membership is constantly rising. About BRICS we can speak more, but because of the time I am running. The crisis of leadership and the negative selection of personnel in politics parties and in the government of the most countries in the world has an impact of possibilities of understanding of this process. We know the European case when after Second World War, European leaders were aware about needs for building peace, and they were